Hello, beautiful souls. Hello, hello out there. Happy Sunday. I hope you all are doing wonderfully. My computer is being weird. And I just figured out why. Okay, I think I fixed it. Happy Sunday. Who's out there? Say hello in the chat for me if you are here. I am Kyla Givehand. Welcome to my channel. It is April 28th, 2024, and I am on day 28 of 30. Wow, just saying that is crazy. Day 28 of 30, where I am going live every single day to share my thoughts and curiosities, and in some cases, my expertise in certain things. You know, people don't like to say they're experts in anything anymore. That's funny to me. But anyway, I'm not an expert in many things, people, but I do have a lot of knowledge in a lot of things. Some of those things I have studied extensively and gotten really great at them. And so, yeah, I'm just here talking about all the things from creativity to fountain pens to all the things, y'all, all of the things. Okay, so today, let me see what I said I was going to talk about today. Hold on, let's look at it. I said it was going to be musings about creative living, writing, and current projects, and about joy. So that's what we're doing today. That's what we're talking about. So, hi, Christina. Hi, Marguerite. Hi, Glitter Girl. What? Hello. How you doing? Also, y'all, I'm going to wolf down a little bit of lunch because my call before this one went over a little bit. And so that little 30-minute window I had planned for myself shrunk to about 7 minutes. Hi, Deidre. Hi, Damon. Hello, Damon. Hi, Odelia. Welcome. So we're going to still do what we always do here. In fact, let me move some things around on my table, and you can probably hear me munching and crunching as I do that. Let's get a piece of paper out. And let me list what I said I was going to talk about, because I know I will forget. In fact, I had a little situation yesterday where I was talking to someone about something that I told them I was going to do for them. And it involved numbers. And the number that I thought I said versus the number they remembered was different. And the person was like, you know, you say things and you forget what you said. And I'm like, that's true. I'm not disputing that at all. I am totally that person. And it's not out of malice. It's why I write everything down. And in that moment, I just didn't have time to go back looking through what I wrote, because I wrote it down when I said it. But I would have to go back to an old journal to find it. And so I just honored what I said. I honored the number they remembered, because that felt good and right to me to do that. So I did. There was no skin off my back. It wasn't a big whoop-de-doo. But I am. I recognize that about myself. I hold a lot. My brain is not a storage device. It's not a USB drive. So I don't try to store all the things in my brain, which is why I write things down. So all of that to say, I don't always remember all the things. I probably have forgotten more than I remember. So It is what it is. It's day 28, y'all. I can't even believe that. It's day 28. So creative living, writing, current projects, and joy. I put that one big because that deserves big. That deserves bigness. Yeah, that feels good. Let's do our card pull. I'm also gonna, let's put down here sort of small. I'm also gonna answer some questions that I haven't answered yet. Today's card pull is gonna come from that 90s tarot. Does anybody know this one? It had a different name when it originally came out. Let me see if I can remember. What was the original name? The Urban Tarot? That might not be right, but I think that's it. And I guess she got some flack about that name. But the deck is based on music from the 90s. A lot of it hip-hop music from the 90s. And so the people and the archetypes in the deck are represented by people. It's a Pips deck, but the archetypes, the 22 majors, are represented by people, musicians mostly, from the 90s. A couple of actresses, I think, are in there, actors, actresses. But it's a fun little deck, so we're going to pull from that today. Damon says, expert suggests experience. Imagine if doctors in the medical establishment had experience in the health and healing. Hoo-wee! Don't even get me started. It's one of the reasons why I've only gone to female gynecologists when I have gone to them, because I'm like, I don't think a man can really tell me about my plumbing, because we don't have the same plumbing. So I need somebody who's working with the same plumbing as me, who gets what I'm saying, who has some experience with the same plumbing. That is not to discount male doctors. Please hear me on that. I'm not discounting male doctors. I'm just telling you my stance and how I feel about it. Okay. Marguerite says same here. Yeah. I just need to know. It's like it's like calling an electrician to deal with the plumbing in your house. Right? Or calling a plumber and being like, can you work on the ceiling fan while you're here as well? I don't know. I'm not sure about that. I love this. I love that her guidebook, all right, Deck Creator Mastermind people, her guidebook is like a piece of regular paper that she probably ran through her printer. I'm sure she didn't handwrite all of these, but she probably created it once and then copied it. And that's her guidebook. And I love it. I think it's freaking brilliant. The creator of the 90s tarot is Christy. We're going to say Prokopiak, I think is how you pronounce that. Let's pull our cards first, and then I'll show you the majors so you can kind of see who all is in this deck. It's a cool deck. I actually don't use it enough. I recognize that. But I don't use this deck nearly enough because it's kind of what's the word I want to use? It's kind of like a novelty deck in a lot of ways. Not to say you can't get good guidance from it, because I think you can. But I think it is definitely one of those decks that is probably not a main deck to use. I graduated high school in 1990. So I was like, yeah, I have to have something that's like that 90s tarot. All right, let's pull a card for today and for our week ahead. Since it's Sunday and we start a new week tomorrow, let's pull one for today. It's funny. One of the questions was, is this how I always shuffle? Yes. My shuffling is threefold. It's a three-tiered shuffle. It looks like this. First, I do a Vegas shuffle. Come on, cards. Work with me. They're kind of stiff, these cards. So first I do what people call a rumble or a ruffle shuffle. It depends on who you ask. I just call it a Vegas shuffle. I've been Vegas shuffling since I was like 6 years old. We had card games at our house. My mama and my aunties and uncles and my mama's friends. Almost every Friday night, if not every Friday night, when I was growing up as a kid, we had fish fries and card games every Friday night. So I was shuffling cards at everybody's table by the time I was 6. My mama says it was even before that, but I clearly, distinctly remember it. 6-year-old me. So I do. That's my process. I do a ruffle shuffle, Vegas shuffle. Then I do this kind of shuffle. That's my second step. I'm sure there's a name. Overhand. You're taking it over. And then I do a holding wash where I'm like washing through the cards. And when I'm doing this, I'm listening for sort of a divine voice to tell me when to stop. All right, so we got our card for today, and then our card for this week. Our card for this week is gonna be Mary J. Blige. All right, so let's look at the 2 cards we got. I think that's Missy Elliott. I'm gonna have to pull out the guidebook because I don't always know these people. Oh, does she not have their names? She doesn't. I think that's Missy Elliott. Does anybody out there agree with me that the King of Wands looks like Missy Elliott? I know that's Mary J. Blige. She doesn't have the name of the people. Oh, there's a guide. Hold, please. All right, I'll go figure out the guide. All right, so we got the King of Wands, and we have the Strength card. So the King of Wands, I think, is a really good card. So this is our for right now. This is our for right now. So ownership or dominion over our creativity. I'm gonna keep it real simple. All right, when I think of kings, I think of dominion over, power over. It's also like order and structure and authority over our creativity. Wands for me is all about creativity. It's that fire energy. It's that spark. It's what are you passionate about? We've been talking a lot about astrology, so you might even map it to some of the fire signs in astrology. And I love that we got a Wands, which is fire, and we got a Strength, which is Leo, maps to Leo in the tarot, which is Leo is a fire sign. So lots of fiery energy here around our creativity. So it's definitely pointing us back to our creativity for the week, for today and for the week, right? If you want to take it to like the people themselves that are on the card, which I think is always an interesting thing to do when you have people who are still alive, living, or have a legacy that you can kind of connect to and aren't just these big sort of universal energies. I think of, I need somebody to check. Damon, can you check? Is this Missy Elliott? Didn't that look like Missy Elliott? I don't know. Hold on. I'm just going to, give me a second, y'all. I got to pull it up because I'm going to go to her website for the deck. And Christy Pro Kopiak.com. I'm going to see if I can find who this King of Wands is, because I don't want to say the wrong thing. Sorry, y'all, it's taking me a little longer because I'm slow right now. That 90s tarot. Oh wow, it says it's not there. I don't know. Okay, so maybe I'm just gonna have to trust that. I think it's Missy Elliott, so I'm just gonna trust that it's Missy Elliott. That's the best I can do. Yeah. Yeah, I don't even see it on her website anymore. Interesting. Okay. So when I think of Missy Elliott, though, I think she is one of the most creative hip hop artists that I've, especially when she was in her prime, when she was like really popular and doing things. She was, her music videos were like cutting edge. She did things in her videos that other people would not dare do. Her music was very, sort of out of the box kind of energy. And so I'm thinking that of like, really, you could see her passion. You could see her passion in action, which is King of Wands all day. It's like power and authority in your creativity. So, and then Mary J. Blige is someone who has been, if there were a word I would give her, longevity, sticking power. She's been one of those people that has just, she seems to persevere in all the things. She's had a lot of life stuff that she has shared publicly that I think would break most people in that industry. And so I think, some of the things to bring to the Strength card are also like overcoming hardships, but also staying compassionate and patient in the world. So yeah, I'm going to go with that for today, of like really looking at our creativity, the ways in which we have strength and longevity and need to kind of infuse in our creative process that concept of longevity. I think longevity, I think legacy. So yeah, that's what I got for y'all. All right, so those are our two cards, King of Wands and Strength, Missy Elliott and Mary J. Blige. All right, so let's just show you some more of the deck. So we got a Pips deck mostly, but I'm going to tell you who she says these people are. This is, why don't I see this one on here? Oh, Courtney Love. I didn't really know her or follow her back in the day, so I can't say a lot about her. So the major arcana and the court cards are all people. So that's Courtney Love. The Chariot, that's Janet Jackson. That's Janet Jackson. Thank you, Glitter Girl. Thank you. That she said the King of Wands is Missy Elliott. Marguerite says, yes, her videos were so awesome. I taped a bunch of them back when I had MTV and a VCR. I love that, Marguerite. I used to try to do routines. I try to follow along with what she was doing in her video. She's got the King of Cups is Tupac. King of Cups. The Moon card is Erykah Badu. Some of these I don't have to look up. RuPaul is The World. Some of these I know by seeing them. Oh, I can't remember this person's name. Let me look her up. Oh, I don't know. She was in a show that I used to watch, but I can't think of her name. Somebody know. Who's she? Who is she? Who is she? Who's that girl? This is Bjork. Am I saying that right? Bjork. Wheel of Fortune. Bjork. This is Drew Barrymore. This is Lauryn Hill. We just talked about Lauryn Hill earlier today. She's the Hierophant. Oh, Carrie Russell. Yes. Yes, Marguerite. Yes. I think that's right. The Page of Wands is TLC. The Page of Swords is Kristen. Come on. She was Veronica Mars. I can't remember her actual name in this moment. Kristen. Now she's on Damon. She's on that show we like. The Good Place. What is her name? I can't think of her name, y'all. Somebody will know it. Beyonce is the Death card. This is Fiona Apple as the Hermit. Lisa Bonet is the Magician. Y'all remember her, Denise Huxtable. The Knight of Swords. I know this person, but I can't think of her name either. Man, it's just not coming fast enough. I can't think of her name. Shannon Doherty. Sinead O'Connor. Glitters Girl says Veronica Mars. Yeah, but what was her real name in real life? Kristen something. Kristen Bell? Kristen Bell. She's also the voice of Gossip Girl back in the day. Sinead O'Connor is Knight of Swords. Oh, nope. Glitter Girl says Knight of Swords is Robin Toomey as Deb from Empire Records. Huh. I don't know that person. Okay. Shannon Doherty, Queen of Swords. Page of Cups, I think, is Claire Danes, maybe. Oh, it's a lot of these people who I recognize, but I don't know their names. Knight of Cups. She's familiar. Don't know her name. Then there's a card, you know the drill. This was the dude from Dawson's Creek, right? Is that him? It's not an actual card in tarot, but Sade is the Empress. Yes, Damon, she's Eleanor Shellstrop in that, but that's not her real name in real life. Oh, thank you. Winona Ryder. Knight of Swords. No? Who is this? Page of Cups, Winona Ryder? That's not Winona Ryder. Pretty sure it's not. That looks more like Winona Ryder. Okay. I'm going to go with the ones I know for sure. And I'm going to just name the ones I know. The Tower, this is, she's from The Craft. That movie, The Craft. Y'all remember that movie? Knight of Pentacles, the Olsen twins. The Emperor, this is, he was called, it was a show called My So-Called Life. He was Ricky, but I can't remember his real name in real life. but he was from my so-called life. Outcast is Temperance. There's Mariah Carey. She is the I don't know her card. Mos Def is Justice. Queen of Pentacles is Reese Witherspoon. Hanged Man, I think this is Courtney Love, isn't it? No, Chloe Sevion. I don't know her. Hanged Man. King of Swords, don't know him. The Fool card is from a show called Broad City, but I don't know these two actresses. I don't know their names, but really good show, funny show. Knight of Wands is Method Man and Damon. I'm calling you in on that one. Yes, I said Outcast, but yes, Andre 3000 from Outcast is Temperance. Judgment, that is Kurt Cobain. Kurt Cobain. High Priestess is Tori Amos. The Star card, that's my girl, Alanis Morissette. Love her. Gonna soak up the sun. It's one of my favorite songs by her. King of Pentacles is Oprah. The Lovers, this is I can't think of her name, but she's from I can't think of her name. Queen of Wands is Rosie Perez. No. Rosario Dawson? Rosie Perez. One of the two. Sorry to mix them up. Oops. Hi, Stephanie. Thank you, Damon. That was Method Man and Red Man. Knight of Wands. India Irie is the Queen of Cups. And that's it, folks. That's it. So she's got some pretty, popular folks in here. So when I have a deck that's like this, where it's got people who are like still alive and or lived in my lifetime, I actually think of that as like, okay, what did they contribute to my life and to this lifetime? Like, what is their contribution to the current state of the world or the current whatever? When I think of musicians, I think about their music and what has their music, right? So if I get, like, we got Missy Elliott and we got Mary J. Blige, right, for our card pull for today. And so their I think about, it brings me to their music, right, and the kind of music that they put out into the world, and just who they were as sort of the, we'll say, icons that they were, right? So that was our reading for today. King of Wands and the Strength card. Missy Elliott, Mary J. Blige. All right. Moving that out of the way for now. All right, lovelies. Let's answer some questions that I got. I'm looking around on my desk because I want to see what's easiest for me to answer in this moment. The fabric I'm stitching on, I got a question about that. The fabric I'm stitching on, this is linen. It was a tea towel that that came in a set of 4 that I purchased from Bed Bath & Beyond's going out of business sale. I bought a bunch of them. I cut off the trim and turn them into little, I have, turn them into all the sort of similar, same size, roughly. So yeah, this is, and it's a really thin linen, but my goal, I think I'm probably going to stitch these 2 something, maybe some backing cloth or something. I don't know yet, but right now I'm just working on them as individual pieces. But that's linen is what that is. And it might even be a linen cotton blend, but I think it's mostly linen, if not all linen. I did get a question. Damon will be happy to know I got this question. I did get a question about Damon and fountain pens. Does Damon have a fountain pen? I got that question. And so I think that person probably was not here on the day when I showed the Conklin pen that is Damon's. I bought it for myself, but I ended up giving it to Damon. However, Damon does have fountain pens. This is one of them that I need to. And the reason I said Damon will be happy is because he's been asking me to refill this for months, and I have not. Sorry, babe. I'm going to do it today. I'm going to do it right now. Right here. Right here, right now. So this was a gift that I bought for Damon. This is a Diplomat is the brand. I can't remember the can't remember the name of it, but it's a Diplomat something or other. It's a nice pen. It's a really nice pen. It has a matte finish, black matte finish. He said my pen of pens. So I'm gonna refill it for you now, right now, babe. Let me see what kind of. Here's another question. Did I put Damon's pen in my little journal here? I probably didn't because he uses the same ink in it every single time. So I probably did not, but let's just double check so I can put the right pen in there. It has a really great nib on it. It writes really beautifully. I was trying to see if I wrote it in here. Yep, Damon's Diplomat. Look at that. Number 5, page 5. Let's see what kind of ink. I think it's diamine. I think it's the document ink, but let's just see. Oh no, green. Did you mean for it to have green in there, babe? Oh no, I see what happened. It had green in it for a while, then I changed it to the document ink. See, this is why keeping the little track is good. A document ink. Tina says, thank us later, Damon. So I changed it to the document ink, and I wrote here, the green has to run out to see the black. Yeah, okay, so let me. And this also answers a second question that I got. I didn't even know it was going to answer a second question, but it does. I got a question about these little sheets and what do I do when it runs out, when I run out of space. You're about to see it right now. I'm going to go over to the next page and I'm going to write on the back of it. That's my plan. All right, so let's refill, and you'll get to see me refill a cartridge, which answers another question. Look at me knocking down the questions. So the first question was, does Damon have a fountain pen? Yes, he does. He has several. This is one of them. The next question, I think you also have a cross pen too, Damon, correct? A cross fountain pen, and then that Conklin pen that I gifted you, that I transferred into your possession. Let me find my document ink. Oh, let's just use carbon. That's the same. Okay. Whew. You would think I have to go to Timbuktu to get the. So like I said yesterday, if I am using the same color ink, I don't clean the pen. And sometimes, as you can see in this case with the green, I don't clean the pen. I just let the ink run out. So let's fill this with some carbon ink. I'm just kind of doing a little turning it upside down. I think this one is one of the ones that has a little reservoir in it though. All right, so when you're refilling with a cartridge, I'm sorry, a converter. This is a converter. You just need to get it all the way to the end. Just roll it up to move that all the way up. You find the breather hole, or the ink hole, some people call it, but his breather hole is right here on the back. You can see that little hole there. So that has to be submerged in the ink for it to draw it in, draw it up. Okay, so I'm going to turn it right to get the, and I always just go really slow. And trust. There's always going to be a little bit of air in there. I always close my ink back up before I do anything else because I have spilled a bottle of ink or two. And then I just wipe off the grip section. Wipe off my nib. And then because it's kind of like there's always this little bit of air in there, I will just cover up the nib a little bit and then I'll just kind of flick, almost like you do with the syringe so you don't get an air bubble. I'll do that just to knock that air out. And I reassemble the pen. Give it a little shake, shimmy, swirl. Might have to add a little drop of water to get it going. Sometimes I just cover it like this and shake really hard. Do a flick. And I can see a bunch of ink came out on the flick. All right, let's see what we got. Today is 4/28. Look at that. I forgot how much I like this pen. You sure you want it back, Damon?
Perfect timing on the cranberry juice delivery. I need my pen, please.
He just walked into the room and I was going to try to keep the pen, but he came to get it. He brought me a drink and came to get it. All right, it's fully refilled. Here, take it with you because I will keep it, sir. Here we go. Specially done for you. All done. Have fun.
Gracias, señorita.
You are very welcome. All right, so Damon's pen is refilled, and I answered 3 of the questions at once, so that's perfect. So, and this ink is by Platinum, and it is permanent when it dries. It's a permanent ink when it dries. So it's one of the other ones that I keep on my list for permanent inks. Okay. Let me look at this list of questions and see if there's anything else I can answer. Stephanie says, good to see. I would have thought I had to remove the converter from the pen to fill it. So Stephanie, you can do that. I could have done that for sure. I could have taken that converter out and dipped it in. But here's what my experience is when I do it that way. It takes it longer for the ink to flow back out of the pen. But because when you draw it up through the nib is getting, we're going to say, I know people don't like the word moist, but lubricated. I don't know if that's better than moist or not, but it makes it do what it's supposed to do better if you draw it up through the nib. So yeah. All right, loves. What else? I was gonna go to the questions. Let me go to the questions and just see what else. So I answered that. About Damon's pens. Okay. The other question was also about pens. I love that y'all have so many questions about pens. That brings me joy upon joy upon joy. Let's see. Question, I think it might be in this one. The question was about, well, the person had several questions, but one of them was about a pen that I think is like my most unique pen, and I don't think I actually have it in this. Hold on, let me see if I have it in here at all. I'm gonna take out my little pen thing here and see. My most unique one is actually a pen that I've had for a really long time. Why is that in there? That's weird. But I don't know where it is in this moment. Okay. And I'm finding pens that I didn't know where they were, and now they're here. But the one I'm looking for is not in here. Okay. I'll describe it, and then I'll show you the one that I think is like the next most unique. So my most unique pen is actually a lipstick pen. I'll see if I can find it and bring it. But it rolls up like when you twist it, the nib rolls up and out like a little little tube of lipstick. And I can't even in this moment remember the brand of that pen, but when it came out, I was like, oh, I must have that pen. And so I will, I'll see if I can find it and show it to y'all. That would be my most unique pen. But I also think my most unique fountain pen. I also think some of my other like kind of unique pens, like I think I showed this one that is really a roller ball, but it functions as a, like you fill it with ink that is fountain pen ink. It can take a cartridge or a converter. I have a second one like that I remembered after that call. That is this one. It's by Schneider. This is probably more commercially available, but it's the same thing. It's like a roller ball, but it fills with fountain pen ink. So you can put a cartridge or a converter, and then it behaves like a roller ball. So for people who have fear of the fountain pen, but you like that idea of being able to change up your inks and have a bunch of different inks, different colors, different whatever, you might check out this Schneider. I'm going to put the name, Schneider. Schneider. You probably can get that commercially. Some other pens that I think are pretty unique are the ones that are retractable. Let's see, where are some of my retractables? It may not actually be in here. Can you hear me rifling through all the things? Let's see. This is a retractable, but I don't think I have any ink in it. And when you don't have ink in it, it doesn't do the retracting thing. But this one, let's talk about that one. I'm gonna keep it out. Hold on, because that one is kind of a. This one is also a retractable, but I don't have a nib in it right now. I'm using the nib in a different retractable. All right, let's talk retractables. because that's kind of fairly new on the scene of fountain pens, to have a fountain pen that is also retractable. So here is the Pilot Vanishing Point is the name of this one. And so you can see how the nib the nib comes out when you click it, just like a retractable ballpoint type pen. And inside there is a mechanism that closes over the nib securely so that the ink doesn't leak out. It doesn't, right? This one, and Pilot also makes a retractable called the Decimo, almost like a decimal point, but Decimo. This one is the Vanishing Point, and the difference is size. The Vanishing Point is a wider pen. It's wide. The Decimo is skinnier. It's a skinnier pen. So those two are vanishing points. And I have a third vanishing point. It's in the fountain pen world, we refer to it as the Stormtrooper. The Stormtrooper. That's this one. Anybody who knows Star Wars, you know why it's called the Stormtrooper. Again, retractable. So these are, sometimes they'll have a special edition in this one. This one is called Crimson Sunrise or something. It's like an ombre effect. That was a limited edition one. I don't know if the Stormtrooper was limited edition. Also, Pilot, I don't believe, called it the Stormtrooper. Fountain pen fans, we gave it that name. Because come on, doesn't it look like the Stormtroopers from Star Wars? It totally does. And then there is the Platinum. Is this by Platinum? Yep, Platinum Curidas. Curidas. And this one is also that same technology. It's a retractable fountain pen. And it's kind of, this one, I like writing with it. It has a great nib, but it's kind of clunky because it's got this little ridge right here on the, so I don't know, it's kind of a clunky pen to write with, but it writes really beautifully. They come in a lot of different colors, that one. Platinum Curidas. It's also a lot of going on internally when you try to change the ink out. So, yeah. This one, I would like to be able to say where I got this from. I can't think of it in this moment, but what I will say about it is not only retractable when there's ink in there, but it also is, the ink that came with this pen is erasable. So this is a little eraser. It's kind of like a friction pen, but in a fountain pen. And so you can erase. It's not a real eraser. It's just, you know, you use that to get that heat going, the friction, and it erases. So I'll have to figure out where I have to go look and see where I got that from. So those to me are kind of unique because you don't really think of retractable pens as fountain pens. So that feels like something unique to me. All right, let's put all those back where they belong. But I'll see if I can find my little lipstick pen, because it's probably my most unique pen that I own, for the reason that I stated. All right. Okay, looking at the questions. Oh, hi, Carrie. Is that you? Hello, lovely. Good to see you here. Carrie says, is there a way to get a pen to work again when it seems to have dried? Yes, absolutely. Give me a second to move this stuff out of the way. Actually, let me get a pen out that I can use to demo. I guess any is this. Oh, no, that was my roller ball, so that's not going to work. speaking of, oh, that's not it. Well, hello. Do I know how to find fountain pens? Which ones are here? I'll use this one. I know that's a fountain pen for sure. Another question I got was, how do you remember where you got all these pens from and when you bought them? And the answer is, I don't remember those details all the time, but I do remember the story behind every pen. Every single one of my pens has a story. And so as a storyteller, I remember things in story. So I remember the story of it, but not always like exactly where I bought it from or exactly when I bought it or exactly how much it cost or any of that. But I do always kind of remember the story of it. So to answer your question, Carrie, if you have a pen where the ink has dried out, the first thing is to disassemble the pen, take all the parts out. If you have some sort of cartridge or ink converter or anything in there, take that out so that the nib is isolated and by itself. Okay, that's the first thing. Then you're going to take this, and the first thing I would do is run it under warm water at full pressure of the warm water, like in my kitchen sink or my bathroom sink. And I would just let that water really like burst down on it and just keep turning it. That'd be the first thing I do. Then I let that water run into this part and drip out. If you don't see it, you should see it dripping out of the nib. If it doesn't drip out of the nib, then you know it's clogged. So my next thing would be to take just a tiny bit, least abrasive dish soap you can work with, put it in a small amount of water and just drop the nib down in the water and let it sit for like an hour. If you come back and that water is still clear, then it's either the pen is clean or it really is severely clogged. At that point, you got to take a few extra steps. The first step is to get something like, let me grab it. You could try putting a little drop of ammonia, pure ammonia, in that water with the nib, but I'm hesitant to use ammonia on any nib because on all of my nibs, because like for this one, this has a rubberized grip. I don't know what that ammonia is going to do to that rubber. So I'm careful about which pens I submerge in ammonia, but you could do that if you felt safe about it. The other thing is to get one of these. Same little things we use to get snot out of the baby's nose. Get one of these, and you can take that same little soapy water and press and then slurp it up. Put that right inside. It usually fits perfectly into most nibs. I won't say all, but most. And then you just hold the nib and push that water through. Right, until you see it coming out. You may get a lot of blowback here if it's really caked up, right? But it's ink. It will eventually break down. It may just require a lot of like submerging, taking out, rinsing, wiping off. Like it might just require you to give it a little love and attention. But it will eventually come out because it's ink and it will eventually break down. But ink can get really caked up, especially if you have a fine nib that you tried to use metallic-y, shimmery fountain pen ink in, right? So, yeah. And then if everything you have tried fails, there are people in the world who specialize in fixing pens. So you might have to send it out. The other thing you could do is, oh shucks, what is it called? Hold on, I have one here. You could take one of these little, you can get these at places like Goulet pens. And I'm sure this is probably something people use in other industries. I don't know what other industry, but you could take something like this and try to slide it between the tines of your fountain pen and get that, if you can get that moving through, you might unlock or dislodge some of the ink that's caked up in there. And then last but not least, what I have seen people do this at the fountain pen shows, people who are there cleaning and restoring pens. They have, you know, those jewelry cleaning things, you put it in and then it vibrates your jewelry to clean it. I've seen people clean their nibs that way, put their nibs into that thing, and it's like a centrifuge almost. It's like shaking away the ink. So there are lots of options out there for that. Deidre says Schneider was my first married name. Oh, I love it. Stephanie says, how often should I clean a pen nib? And how often should I use a pen to keep it from clogging or drying up? I'm guessing these questions are related to each other. They are, Stephanie. Great questions too. So how often should you use the pen to keep it from clogging or drying? I'm going to say the answer to that is multi, because the first answer I would say is it depends on the pen. For instance, all of my Twisbys and my Franklin Christoph pens the ink doesn't dry up in them as quickly. This pen, the ink dries up really quickly in this pen. And quickly to me is because I have so many pens and I'm always rotating and changing them out and working with different pens, writing with different pens. To me, if a pen dries up in a 2-week time period, that's fast. That's too fast. I would say that this pen probably dried up in about 2.5 to 3 weeks. But again, I think it also has to do with the fact that I have the ink inside this container instead of in a cartridge or a converter. So because I'm using silicone here, like there could be a lot of reasons why this ink dried up. In fact, I'm questioning right now, is my seal really sealed? Because that matters, right? The seal on the pen will determine how much air gets in there, which will determine how fast your ink dries. So certain pens, like Franklin Christoph, they are exquisite. Their pen seal on their pen is always like almost 100% spot on. So the ink in those pens, I can go for months and come back to the pen and it just do a little swirl and it starts writing instantly. Some pens are not like that. You've got to, it's going to dry up really quickly. So it depends on the pen. How often should you be using them? Yeah, again, depends on the pen. How often should you clean it? So for me, it's kind of like some people are with their stencils. I don't clean my pen unless I'm changing the ink or storing it for a significant amount of time. If I'm like, yeah, like this one, I knew I probably wasn't going to be using this pen a lot, so I just went ahead and cleaned it, and just kind of put it away. Right. So if I'm going to be putting the pen away, I clean it and just put it away. If I'm going to, if I'm changing the ink and it's going to be like going from, say, green to red, I probably will clean that green fully out before I go to red. But going from green to black to me is, I mean, that doesn't warrant a cleaning necessarily. So I hope that's helpful. Oh, Lamy Safari is another one where the ink doesn't dry up quickly. The ink stays pretty wet in a Lamy Safari. So Lamy, Twisby, Franklin Christoph, my experience has been that those pens hold their ink very well and keep it wet. So yeah. Marguerite says, is there a way to store pens so they don't clog up every time? Stand them up this way. Or lay them horizontal. So horizontal or vertical with the nib up. Some people say vertical with the nib down, but every time I have ever done that, I get all kind of seepage into my cap. It's a mess. It's a hot mess. So standing with the nib up or horizontal is how I do store my pens. Yep. It's why I have a lot of my pens in cases, because then I can kind of have them all standing or laying down. Yeah, you're welcome. You're welcome, Carrie. I hope it's helpful. It's a lot, I know. Stephanie says, I'm a newbie, so I only have a couple of Lami safaris so far. I like the so far. Yes. We're happy you're here too, Roseanne. Welcome. All right. So what else? Let me go to the questions really quickly and see what I got here that I didn't answer. I forgot this question. The person said, can you please share your split pea soup recipe with us? Oh, that's funny. Yeah, give me some time to think about how the best way to do that. But yeah, I'm happy to do that. And Tina says, on another note, how was the split pea soup? The split pea soup was amazing. Still nibbling on it. We still have some. We're gonna have some more for dinner tonight. And took my mama some, and she called me instantly and was like, girl, this is the best soup. It's like, thank you. So whenever my mama gives me a thumbs up endorsement on my food, because everything I know I learned from her or from watching, cooking competitions, but mostly from her. So, yeah, no, there's like a little lag time between y'all typing in the chat and me seeing it. So I have to just name that for y'all. So when I went to the question, then Tina put her question, it was like almost like at the exact same time. Marguerite says she's been thinking about that soup too. It's so easy, y'all. It's like it's the soup that I make that has the fewest ingredients in it. Most of my soups have like a bunch of stuff because I do kitchen sink soup, where I just look at what's in my refrigerator and I just dump a bunch of stuff in there. So split pea is the only one that I actually keep it real simple. Carrots, onions, celery, garlic. That's the basis of it. And then a couple bay leaves in there. So yeah, I'll figure out how I can get it to y'all in an easy way, for sure. Carrie says you're never too old for mom's approval. Exactly. Okay, let me look here. I answered that about the soup. I answered about the pen. That was another pen question. Oh, this question is about, hold on, let's see if I can go back and find. What did I do with it? I probably already put it away. Oh, but I know where there's more. Hold, please, 1 second. Let me grab it. Oh my. Okay, I think this is the person who asked me this. So I'm just going to say on camera without saying the person's name. You have numbers at the end of your email, and they are 624. So to prevent me from having to say your name, I just want you to know I'm answering your question in case it's you. In case you're watching this. I think you're asking about these pieces. This is stuff that came in a box where I had purchased something. And so I didn't sew them. I didn't glue them. They came like this. The person is asking about these things. What did I use to secure, like to glue them together? I didn't. They come like this already. I'm going to say already connected in this way. So I didn't do anything to them. All I did, they come like this, as sort of this size where they're together. I just took the preparations and ripped them apart to get to this size. So I didn't actually, I haven't done anything, but what I said on the video, if I remember correctly, is that I would then stack these and then sew them together to make like a sewn journal together all as one, right? So I didn't actually sew them. They come like that when you get them in the packaging. Yeah. Okay. Tina says, we call that stone soup. Look in the fridge and dump it in a pot. Yep. That part. Okay. I think I'm close to being at the end of the questions. Let me just look here once more. I'm going to take a little sip of cranberry juice. Okay, so this person is saying, basically thanking me for the walk through the zodiac and asking if, let me make sure I understand this question. And you talked about, okay, so it looks like the question is, even though each sign seems to have its own qualities, would you also say that there's overlap around among them? So yes, I think anytime we're dealing with things that are like connected to elements and what I'm considering is like personality traits that can show up in us, there's always going to be overlap, because I can say for Virgo, it likes to color code things and it's all about refinement. And then I can say about Capricorn that it likes order and structure. Those two things are different like if we really were to like, distill those two things down, they're very different things. To say that someone likes to have things color coded and to say somebody likes to have order, they don't necessarily mean the same thing. However, there's a lot of overlap there because color coding can create order, right? But it's not the only way to create order. So my answer to that would be yes. I think there's overlap simply in the fact that personality traits overlap. But not to say that we couldn't also distill those things down and out, if that makes sense, right? Like we could get a little more granular, get a little more into Virgo. So what I did for you all was like a walkthrough of the top level of the zodiac. Yeah, no, we got to go in more to look at. So not only does Virgo would be the one color coding, like that's an example. That's not a hard and fast rule. In fact, I would even venture to say there's not a lot of hard and fast rules when it comes to astrology. I think there are, everything's sort of, we're a recipe, right? It's all working together, swirling together to make us who we are. It's kind of like a pot of soup, actually, since we've been talking about soup here, right? It's like all of us could make split pea soup, but I have a little ingredient that I put in mine that I don't really ever tell people I am putting in there, unless, of course, I'm cooking for people that might have allergies or something like that. But it's not anything that I have ever heard anybody be allergic to, but you never know. But if I'm just cooking it for my family, I have my own little special secret ingredients that I put in things to make it mine, right? And those little nuances can shift and make that's why when you go, if you've ever been to like a cook-off of something or a bake-off, everybody's baking the same thing or cooking the same thing, but it's all in the little nuances, the little details. So when I was giving you all examples on the last 2 days when I was talking about the zodiac, that was really in service of giving you like a really big zoomed out view of the zodiacal signs. That was not to tell you that this is all that Virgo is: refinement, perfectionism, and color coding. It's way more than that. right? It's way more than that. So yes, there's going to be overlap, but also the more we zoom out on the zodiacal information, the more we're going to see the bigger picture, right? So yes, I hope that answers the question. Carrie says, I'm Capricorn and my chaos is its own kind of order. Spoken like a true Capricorn. I say it all the time. Organized chaos is order. It is order. So yeah, they're spoken like a true Cap. I was thinking that I would stitch together this little book today because it's already pretty much ready and waiting. I think I shared this on leather day. Ooh, Tomoe River paper already folded and waiting for me? What kind of magic is that? Oh, I think I was wanting this to be a little thicker. So I added this, but this feels like a gift. Huh. I'm going to have to think about that because I don't want that in here. Okay, that's a gift to me right there. Tomoe River paper already folded, waiting. Is it already stitched? Does it already have holes in it? No, no holes yet. Well, that feels special. Okay, let's talk about, I think I am going to bind a book or something here. Let me just scan the room for a moment. I could also do some more slow stitching. I said I was going to talk about current projects. So why don't I do that as I figure out if I want to stitch this and what I want to do. That Tomoe River paper feels very special. Like I need to, I need to think on that. I need to think about exactly what this is going to be and do. This, on the other hand, not that this doesn't feel special, but I think this is, I wonder if I could be happy with just going with that size. I feel like I want it to be a little chunkier though, for some reason. I don't know why. I like a chunky book. Maybe that's why. All right, so current projects. I have a lot of current projects. Obviously, that's just who I am and who I be. But most of them are in service of me trying to explore something. And what I mean by that is, like, for instance, the slow stitch project that I have going on. This is about me exploring slow stitching, exploring collage with fabric. In fact, let's just, maybe I will stitch a little something while I talk. Exploring like composition, right? Like the ones I worked on yesterday, you can kind of see the composition is different in them. And I'm exploring that. I'm exploring color. I'm exploring composition. I'm also trying to develop my skills and grow my skills as a stitcher, right? As somebody who's doing slow stitching. The only way you get good at it is to keep doing it, to practice it, to do it more and more and more, right? So I am, in fact, playing with, I'm just using it to explore and play with like combinations of things, exploring different stitches. So usually my projects, when I say I have a project, I've given myself a project in order to, that one piece, I think it is, in order to teach myself something. Like for me, booking a day, the very first time I did it, that was a project. I was trying to grow in a particular area. And I was trying to learn more things and explore. And so in that growth, in that exploration, booking a day was born out of that. And so, yeah, most of my projects are in service of that. And I think that is a good segue into living a creative life. Like for me, see, I think I'm going to work on a piece of this while we talk, while I talk. And you all can feel free to come on in and ask me things. I have two here that are waiting. I already have some glue on them. And then I have one that is waiting for me to put the pieces down. So why don't I put the pieces down on one, and then I'll start stitching. All right, let's see. So yeah, so this is like, for me, a creative, in my opinion, the whole idea of a creative life and living creatively involves not just always being in exploration mode, right? It's like, I can't remember. There's a saying that's like, yeah, you can keep gathering up all the ingredients for a sandwich, but at some point you got to make the sandwich, right? Like at some point you got to sit down, make the sandwich, and eat it to know, right? Tina says, do they still make Tomoe River paper? They do. They have changed from what I understand, they've changed the chemical makeup of the paper, maybe, or something to that effect. I'm laughing at Tina. She says, yes, Virgo is way more. I am Virgo, and I am the drama. Sometimes, anyway, she says. So living a creative life, I think, involves exploration. We have to be willing to explore, but sometimes you got to come inside and make the sandwiches, right? I think it's Rachel Torta who shared that with me, that maybe somebody in her life would say that to her, of just like, at some point you got to stop, lining up the ingredients, and you got to actually make the sandwiches, so, or stop making the bread and actually make the sandwiches at some point, right? Like there's that whole thing. So I think that oftentimes in a creative life, and this is any kind of creative, like I think that we can get caught up in the exploration phase, and we can forget that a really big part of it is actually butt in seat and doing the creative work, right? That's especially for my writers, like not just for the writers, all the people, all the creatives, but I want to speak to my writer people for a moment, because it's so easy for us to get caught up in the research. I'm going to keep doing all the research. I got to research a little bit more on this and a little bit more on that. I don't know what I want to do with this. None of these little, see, and that's, I'm just going to keep playing until I find a composition that I like, or I decide I don't like the composition at all. Kind of like that, just kind of like an alternating little thing happening here, a little alternating motif, creating a little bit of balance. I'm going to cut these yellow ones down a little bit. So yeah, these are all about the same size. We'll just do that. And I know there are people out there who don't like to hear that, who want to say, no, my creative process is exploration. That is it. If I'm not doing all the things, all the different things, I'm not really creating. Okay. I'm not going to argue with you. The proof is in the pudding. The proof is in the pudding. So I'm not telling anybody to stop exploring. I'm always exploring, but I am creating. I do stop exploring and I spend some time creating. That is also true, right? So I also think a creative life includes lots of silence. And what I mean by that is, I think I might like that little composition. I'm going to move it around one more time and then I'll see. So silence in that, are you getting quiet enough to hear your own inner voice? Or are you always do you always have noise running in your mind? And by noise, I mean the voices of others. I mean TikTok, I mean Instagram, I mean all the ways in which other people are bringing their voices into your space. Because that, my friends, can be to your detriment, even if it's fun. Doesn't matter. You might be like, but that's the fun part, Kyla. I like being on TikTok. I like seeing what all the people are doing and making. And I like to go and listen to all the webinars. This is one of the things I find with my business, my creative business clients. Well, I was at this webinar and this webinar and that webinar, and I took this webinar and I did this with this webinar and I learned this in this webinar and I did this and I did. And I'm like, and when are you actually running and building your business? If all you're doing is being on all the webinars, going to all the webinars, doing all the webinars, taking all the, are you actually working on your business? What does that look like? Right? I'm not saying don't learn and grow in your business, but also a lot of times I see creatives get themselves into this space where, and I used to be that and do this, trust me. I'm not saying anything to you that I have not experienced myself, where I would justify, I've got to go do this webinar because I don't know how to do this thing in my business and I need to learn how to do this thing. Actually, unless your business is being a web designer, you could absolutely hire someone to design your website. You don't need to go sit through 12 hours of classes, content, and webinars to learn how to build a website when that's not actually your work. To me, that's a distraction to your work. Like, just hire somebody to build your website and spend those 12 hours working on the thing that is actually your business. Love you. Don't be upset with me, but that's real talk, right? Some of you are spending hours and hours and hours learning how to, do an email funnel. I'm not saying you shouldn't know how to do these things, but I'm saying at some point you have to go, okay, how many more hours do I have to really invest in learning how to do something that I really should probably just hire somebody to do? And I'm guilty of it too. I'm going to say that again. This is not a judgment. This is me basically speaking from personal experience. Tina says, exploration equals collecting supplies and online courses. And then she said, oh, Lord, not this again. I love it, Tina. That's so real. Yeah, and I'm right there. I do it too. And here's the thing. Take the classes, buy the supplies, use the supplies, do what you have learned in the classes, do the thing, right? Don't just take the classes and sit there and watch all the videos, but then you're not actually, and I think Stephanie just wrote, I always need time to implement what I learned. If you're not implementing, then I don't know. What are you doing? What you doing? What are you doing? All right, so I'm going to stitch on this one. And I'm going to keep going with this same thread, I think. Although I'm looking at this one that I did here, and I actually had, it looks like I had a different color thread. That does not look the same to me. Should I pull out the thread box? Nope. I'm just going to go with what's on my table. Because it's Sunday, so we're going to let it be easy like Sunday morning. Oh, this already has a little bit of thread in it. How about we use that up? Oh, I did get a question about why I'm doubling this thread and knotting it at the end. That wasn't exactly how the person asked the question, but it was something like that. And the answer is, I do usually have a rhyme and a reason, y'all. I promise. But the answer to that is because this thread is really thin, and doubling it just feels better to me. Feels like I will see it better as well. The second reason, if you must know, is because this thread is so thin that when I'm pulling it through, I end up pulling the tail in that's just hanging. It keeps coming out of the needle, the eye of the needle, and I just got tired of that. It's like, I'm tired of that. I'm tired of it doing that. So tying a knot on the end secured it for me. So there you go. There you have it. All right, I think, what just happened there? All right, I think what I'm going to do here is maybe, no, I'm not. I was going to say, maybe I'm going to do, maybe I am. I might do a little bit of a, oh, that's coming right through that. Huh. All right, let's get a bigger knot. That's weird. Let's see. Stephanie says, I double my thread to avoid swearing when it pulls out of the needle. That's my new answer. That's my new answer, Stephanie. Thank you. But that is exactly it. It's like I cannot stand when I have to read thread needles because it pulls out of the eye. That is not fun for me. So I'm going to switch up my stitch here. I've been doing just a seed stitch, but I'm going to do a little bit of a, I'm going to do a, I don't know the name right now. I think it's called a chain stitch. I'm going to do a chain stitch on this. Marguerite says, this is great. I'm getting so much done while we hang out. I'm sorting through all my collage stuff and culling out a bunch of it, and it's clearing my mind. That part. Yeah. Chaos in your environment is chaos in your mind. Chaos in your mind creates chaos in your environment. There is a relationship, a correlation. Tina says, oh, wait, we're supposed to watch the classes? Tina, you got jokes today. I love it. But also, even in your joking, Tina, you're speaking some truth. And I promise you're not the only one, right? Like, that is a thing. I literally, this is why I don't do lifetime classes, y'all. So I have maybe 1 or 2 classes that are lifetime, where I literally say you have lifetime access to this. Because here's what's real and true. I personally don't believe that if you give people lifetime access, many of them will do it right then. They're gonna, because there are some people who are like just like, I bought this thing, I gotta do it right now, right? They have that sort of fear of missing out. The other way fear of missing out shows up is when we buy something, even though we know 100% we don't have time to actually commit to it, right? And even if it's not time, like maybe we have time, because a lot of us have more time than we realize, because, you know, if you're spending 2 hours a day scrolling on Instagram, you have time. You have time, trust me. Or Facebook or any other social media platform. But we like to say we don't have time. But the truth is we do. We just choose to use that time maybe in an unproductive way. No judgment, because I also scroll on Instagram from time to time, even though I'm starting to not really like it as much these days doing that. Or we buy the class because we're like, oh my God, I really want to do this. I want to learn this thing, but we're just not really ready yet to do it or learn it. But we don't want to miss out, because what if the person never offers this class again? I've got to do it now. Right? That part is true too. There's a lot of reasons why we sign up for things and then don't actually do those things. Right? I could sit here and list out 50 different reasons. So it's not just one reason. And this is not a judgment. I'm going to say it again. You are not being judged by me. What I'm actually trying to get you to notice is that this is what we call the human condition. This is what we call the human condition. The word condition is important in that phrase, because sometimes we've just been conditioned to overconsume. We've been conditioned to overconsume, to buy things we do not actually need, for fear that we may one day need them and not have them. I am also guilty of this, people. I am also guilty. Tina's making soup right now, y'all. She's roasting the veggies. Tina, are we getting some of that soup? If I lived closer, I would totally, I think I've told you this before, I would totally be at your house knocking on the door with my bowl. I would bring my own bowl. I wouldn't make you have to, like, clean my bowl. I would be knocking at your door, bowl in hand. Totally. All right, so living a creative life. It's a lot. There's a lot to it, y'all. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and pretend like I can boil it down in the next 15 minutes, because that's about as much time as I'm going to stay on today. Much more, 15 more minutes. Damon, hold me to that. Because I'm not really looking at the clock. I'm looking at my stitching. But living a creative life, there's a lot of components to this conversation, right? A lot we could say about this. And also, let's be really honest and say some people are there, that there are different levels of a creative life. Levels doesn't feel like the right word, because it makes it seem like there's something's higher than something else or better than something else. So we'll just say there are several different ways it can look. For instance, I have my professional creative life, and then I have my, what I consider my private creative life. Like, I'm sitting here publicly doing this with you all right now, even though this is a very private project for me. I'm just, because I'm in a month of vlogging and just showing up as in my real life, you're seeing it here. But I doubt that you will go to Instagram and find any of this on my feed right now. Not a single one of these. I don't think I've shown or taken a photo of a single one of these, because this is not for public consumption. This is, I mean, obviously I'm sitting here doing it now, so the public that watch these videos will consume it. But prior to now, I've probably got about 40 of these done. They're not, I wasn't doing it to prove anything to anybody or to show anybody anything. This was just for me. And I have a lot of projects like that. I have a lot of things that I'm doing just for me. Just for me. I went to a retreat once, and we all were asked to bring things we were working on to kind of like have like a little bit of like a show and tell kind of situation. And we all brought things or whatever. And it was so funny because I was showing some bookbinding, book art things that I had been working on for, like, at that point, I had been working on them probably for a couple of years. And one person was like, Kyla, I follow you on Instagram and Facebook, and I've never seen you post any of this ever. And I was like, right. And she was like, why don't you share it? It's so beautiful. It's so this, that, and other. And I was like, thank you. I appreciate, the feedback on how you're receiving it. However, it's not for it. It's just for me. It's just my own personal practice, And I think we have to have that. And then there's what I do publicly, because it ties into classes I'm teaching or something that is connected back to my business, right? Not everybody's running a business with their creative work, right? I have some clients who are creative coaching clients with me who have full-time 9-to-5 jobs, and they're not trying to start a business. They just want to use their creativity as a source for healing and self-discovery and knowing themselves better. And that's why they end up in my world working with me one-on-one, not because they're trying to build a business. Sometimes that happens and sometimes they are, but I have people who aren't who don't even, I have people that I work with who don't even have Instagram accounts. Let's put that there. Okay. And so it's not always about that, but I think that this world and the current sort of industry of things makes us feel like we always got to be sharing and showing. Like that's the reason to create, is so that you can have something to put on Instagram. Malarkey, badarkey, I say. Deidre's making lemon ginger shots. I love it. Are you putting them in the freezer? For like freezing them and then, well, first of all, Deidre, I'm making some assumptions just because of what you and I have talked about in this chat over the last 28 days. I'm making some assumptions that we're talking holistic ginger shots, that these are for healing and health, is what I'm thinking, not like to take to the frat house later. And that was totally that was me stereotyping fraternities, but I'm just going on my personal experience with fraternities. There's usually some Jello shots in the freezer. All right, Deidre says yes. I freeze them in ice cube trays, and they have fresh turmeric and ginger from her garden. Ooh, how funny! I love that. The turmeric and the ginger from your garden. I love that that's in there. Carrie, yes, I use this little Yoo-hoo glue stick. Put a little glue on the back of the fabric and then just smooth it out with my finger. And that keeps them in place for me while I stitch them. Because I used to try, and again, this comes from exploring, right? I didn't need to take a class. I needed to cut out fabric and start trying to lay it down, and then start to try to hold a piece of fabric in place while I'm stitching and it's flopping all over everywhere, for me to go, okay, stop. I got to have a way to stick this down. I'm going to just use some glue stick and see what happens. Right? I didn't need to take a class and have a teacher tell me that. I just was like, let me try this and see what happens. And I like it. It's one of the few things I actually like the Yoo-hoo glue stick for, is sticking down fabric to just hold it to my, if I'm trying to do like a little fabric collage. Do I want to do all of these the same? I think I want to do 3 different stitches. So I'm going to just go to this blue one and do another chain stitch here. So yeah, that's a big part of exploring, y'all, is right. Like sometimes you just need to try something and see what happens, see what you get. And that's what I did. So Carrie, from my experiment to your craft room, I hope it helps. Carrie says, yes, I do that. I learned it from you, but I mean the finished pieces. Oh, like these? I don't know. I think it's honestly, I think it's the thinness of this linen. It is really thin, like see-through thin. See, I can see my fingers back there. Like, I think it's the thinness of this. And then I'm using, yeah, I mean, I think the thickest thing I've used so far is maybe this muslin. Everything else is also pretty thin fabric, if I'm being honest. I don't have a lot of puffy, thick fabrics happening here. So I think that helps. Someone was asking about putting these in a hoop. And I do sometimes. You can see the hoop marks on this one. Right? Where sometimes a hoop just feels easier. Especially for me, a hoop feels easier when I'm trying to do things like a whip stitch or a blanket stitch, where I'm trying to go around. That always. But if I'm doing just like a running stitch or a seed stitch, or even this little stitch I'm doing here with the back, the chain stitch, I mean, there are other stitches like that. I think having it in a hoop is more conducive to not wanting to throw the whole thing out the window, getting frustrated easily with it, you know. Tina says, was there ever a time when you did feel like you had to share all of your creativity? If so, How did you shift? Anyone can respond. I'm only a couple of years into separating my two creative lives. When you say your two creative lives, Tina, I'm thinking you mean public private, like I was talking about. Just want to verify that that's what you mean by your two creative lives. Yeah. So I think this is also a very Capricorn thing. All right. Capricorns are very private people generally, right? Those of us that have heavy Capricorn energies in our sun, moon, rising, any of those big three, typically are pretty private people. And I think that it is just inherent in me to be private, to keep things to myself. I would also say I think that it was never out of fear that I keep my stuff to me. But I do think it was out of self-preservation, right? And what I mean is people in the public, the general public, sometimes, and you all may have seen this on on these videos of like, I've had to delete a few comments that people have made because I'm like, yeah, I'm not keeping that on my feed, on my video or whatever, because some people don't understand boundaries. I'm going to show them some grace and say they don't understand boundaries, instead of saying they're rude. I'm going to say some people don't have good boundaries. I have good boundaries. And so, yeah, I think it's just a combination of things. So my answer to that is, there has never really been a time where I felt like I had to share my creativity all the time. I think there are moments when I succumb to, is that the right past tense of succumb? I gave into, I'm going to use that, where I gave into the sort of general narrative that if you want to do well in business and you want to be, if you want to do well in business and you want to thrive and you want to make money, you have to be on social media. You have to show blah, blah, blah. And I think I bought into that for a while. Okay. And I'm going to be honest and tell you, this is one of the, I'm saying a lot of words right now, but I'm just going to talk and you can, anybody listening can suss out what you need to suss out for yourself. Okay. But here's what my lived experience taught me. So I came onto the scene before Instagram was a thing. Okay. I've been building a business since before Instagram was ever a thing, and before Facebook was a thing, right? The only reason I got on Facebook is because it was required for a course I was taking at Mills. And the teacher was basically going to give me an F if I didn't get on Facebook. So I was like, okay, I got to do it. I had been one of the holdouts, I think, probably the one sole person in the university at the time, at the college at the time, who wasn't on Facebook. I was like, I'm not doing this. I don't want to do it. I don't want to be on Facebook. And the teacher was like, that's fine. I hope you want this F. So long story short, I got on Facebook, right? Okay. So I did the thing. I did it for class. And that's a whole other conversation for another time around like what then happened. But I never got on social media for my business. That was never my reason for getting on social media. Right now, I'm not saying that please hear me. I'm not saying social media is bad. It's all about how we use it and what we use it for. So I want to name that. I'm not demonizing social media. Okay. Although I think I could be justified if I were. I'm not. I also am a private person. So we're adding that. So right? My reason for getting on social media was never about business. I'm already a private person, always have been. Like, even in my sharing here this month with you all, there's still so much about me you don't know, right? Not because I'm trying to like hide it from you, but because I reserve the right to keep some of my life private. I reserve the right to have some things that are just for me and the people who are involved in my life in that at that level, right? And it's not because I don't love y'all. I tell you all the time, I love y'all. I do. I have a genuine love for people who show up and are in conversation with me and who share their lives with me, who, right? And everybody, I want you to also have what feels private for you. You don't need to tell me everything. You tell me what you feel comfortable telling me and allow me to do the same. And that's just my general way of moving through the world. Okay. So that is also a part of it. And then there is the moment where people start to, like, if you're sharing all of your stuff and always, they decide that it is somehow you're a public figure now, and it is well within their right to tell you how they think and feel about what you're sharing. And I draw the line at that. I draw the line at people coming into my DMs or my feed and telling me how I should think, feel, behave, and act and share and what I should. No, no, no. We're not going to do that, because I'm not going to come into your feed and do that to you. Right. And so being a part of being in the public eye so fully includes opening yourself up to that. And if you don't have really good convictions and already have sort of your values in place, you might be negatively impacted by that. Right. I've had people, like, I've had people correct my grammar. I'm like, I have 3 degrees in English education. I know how to speak correct grammar. I choose not to all the time. I'm going to say the word ain't as many times as I want to. I'm from the South. Ain't is like the word the. We use it for everything. Um, and so I am learned, right? I have all the degrees and the student debt to prove it. And also, I choose to say ain't or we be or whatever else if I choose, right? And so, but there are people who, want to come and tell you how to behave online and how to, right? So I think you open yourself up to that. So there was a little bit of that for me, is like I had to get to a place where I was like, okay, if people are going to do that kind of thing, right? I have to know who I am. I have to be ready to deal with that. And so until I felt ready to deal with that, I stayed away. Now, doing book in a day helped me tremendously in that area, because I didn't really know what a troll was until I started doing that. And I literally had to, I mean, I feel like I already have a pretty tough skin, as they say, but I really had to check my own, like, emotional security and wellness, because people can be nasty. People can be really nasty. And um, so there's that part. And then I did have a business coach who was like, Kyla, you've got to be more visible. You've got to show, people want to see you. They want to, you got to show them what's happening in your life. You got to, and I'm like, yeah, I don't think I do, actually. I think I'm going to say no to that and choose differently. And so there was a lot of that for me, of just like choosing how I'm going to show up instead of being told how I should show up. And it comes with consequences, obviously. It means that I have to do other things to bring awareness to the work that I do in the world, to my business, to my offerings. And I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that. You have to be okay with that. Yeah. And so there was a time, and it was a very short amount of time, where I did feel like I needed to share everything. And it didn't feel good to me to do that. So I stopped. I stopped. And a big part of the shift was me going, what do I value? And when I'm actually someone who doesn't, I will tend to unfollow someone when I feel like what they're sharing crosses the line for my personal. I'm trying to be careful how I say this because I don't want it to seem like I'm not judging. There's some people who share what they had for breakfast. They're going to tell you what soap they're using to wash their butts. They're going to give you every sordid detail of their life. They're gonna tell you what other people are doing and saying to them. They're going to tell you about every therapy session they have. They're going to tell you, and at some point it becomes too much, in my opinion. Okay. And as a consumer, I get to decide how much of that I want to consume. I get to decide if I'm comfortable listening to you berate people in your shares. That's a boundary for me. I don't want to engage in that, because now I feel like you're throwing your muck onto me, and I would never do that, right? If I've got beef with somebody in the background, that beef stays in the background. I'm not bringing that, even if it's a family member, right? Like, I'm not going to come and hash out all the sordid details of me and a family member having it. Like, that's, for me, that feels like a boundary. Not just a boundary I want to hold, but a boundary I don't even want to cross with another person, right? So I pay attention to that kind of stuff. And so for me, I see people doing that. A lot of and those are the people that I'm like, that is their choice. That's their prerogative. I'm not judging it. It's just not how I want to show up, right? And so when it comes to creativity, I think of that along the same lines. Like, do you need to see every single failed experiment I have ever done? Right? I don't think you do. But if you hang around me long enough, you know that what you're seeing as the finished product usually has a graveyard full of things that didn't go well to get me to the one thing that did. Right? So yeah, that part. um, So yeah, I think the shift for me was just getting really clear on where my personal boundaries are around what I share, and just taking some sovereignty. Like, I actually get to choose what I share. Nobody dictates for me. And also, I don't have to do what everybody else is doing. Just because everybody else is sharing every single bit of minutia of their lives and their days I don't have to do that. I just don't. I can choose. And so that was the shift for me, is realizing there is what people call the algorithm. There's the sort of societal norm around what social media is. Like, I can promise you 1,000%, you're never going to see me shucking and jiving on Instagram. You're just not. I draw the line at that. You're never going to see me like doing the TikTok challenges, and you're just not. You're not going to see that, right? So I have boundaries. I have values. I have, not to say other people don't. I'm saying I'm clear on. Let me say it that way. I am clear on what I value and what my boundaries are. That's the best way I can explain it. And also, I always try to come to any place that I'm sharing, whether it's in person or online. I always come with compassion, love, and kindness. Period. That is for myself. Love, kindness, and compassion for myself. Love, kindness, and compassion for those that are following me and listening and giving me their time and energy. And I'm always going to speak empowerment into the world. That's just who I am. That's how I'm built at this point. And so for me, sometimes I feel like people cross the line when they start spewing a lot of anxiety, hate, their own personal like stuff that to me does not empower other people, right? So yeah, that's my little soapbox. I'm gonna get off of it now. Okay, so Tina says, yeah, if you want to do well in business, she's heard that part too. She's heard that before. She says, I have not posted on social media more than a few times this year. It feels liberating and fear that my followers will not be there if I start posting again. Yeah. I mean, and it's also social media, y'all. It's fickle. I love when people are like, I figured out the algorithm. I'm like, and they just changed it 5 minutes after you said that. Like, it's technology. I used to work in computer programming, and here's what I know. If they can program it to show us ads of things we have looked at, talked about, spoken about, and seen, they can program it to show us exactly what we want to see. They don't want to program it like that, y'all. Right? So it's there for a reason. They're doing it. Instagram is doing exactly what they've programmed it to do. You can't beat the algorithm. So don't try. That's all I got to say. You can't. It's a computer. You can't beat it. Don't try. Just show up authentically. Show up authentically. Be as consistent is for you. And let that be enough. Let that be enough. Right? I mean, I'm pretty, I think I've always been pretty open with people from the very beginning. Like, if you sign up for my newsletter, you're going to get some inconsistently consistent content from me. Like, I'm just being honest. I'm not going to be one of those people that is sending you an email on the 5th of every month like clockwork. That feels like a cage to me. And also, I love people who I subscribe to their newsletters and I get a monthly email from them. It brings me joy. I love it. But I also, that's not me, and that's not how my life is built, and that doesn't feel good for me as a creator, to feel like I have to every month give you a newsletter on the 5th of the month. Hoo-wee, no thank you. Right? So my version is, I might send something once a month. I'm also going to send you things when I have something to say. I'm not just going to randomly be up in your inbox for no reason, because also I don't like email. So I'm not going to ask you to be, so it's that for me. Um, and I wanted to respond to the whole, if your followers will be there when you come back. Here's what I like to say. Um, just like I haven't been here on YouTube in a while, I showed up, I started sharing, and look at y'all. Y'all are here, right? You're showing up too. Now, I have over 8,000 followers here on this platform. I haven't once seen 8,000 people show up to a live stream that I've done, right? And I'm okay with that, because here's what is true. Those of you who have shown up, my heart is happy to see you every time your name pops up. Like, genuinely, when your name pops up in that chat because you're saying hi to me, I am genuinely happy when that happens. Like, no BS. This is not me BS kind of smoke, trying to blow smoke up your behind. That's real for me, because I understand the value of time. And the fact that you come here and give me some of your time, that means something to me. Like, that's big for me. I'm not even going to lie. That's big for me, or to me. And so I don't take it lightly. I don't take that lightly. And I don't care if 8,000 people come or not. It doesn't matter to me. I am here for those who show up, period. I'm here for myself too. Like, this is also me trying to get past my sort of like, why am I not coming to YouTube? Not because I don't love y'all or I want to neglect you. It's because it got harder and harder with the editing portion. Like, record a video, do the editing, add music, put an intro, make sure you got a thumbnail, write a description, I'm exhausted thinking about it. Right? And that part is why I haven't really been here. It's not because I don't have content. It's not because I don't have anything to say or share. It's because it just felt hard. And I can do hard things, but I would like to not have to do hard things unless I absolutely have to do hard things. I want to pick and choose my hard things. All right. So yes, my point is, even if you take time away, when you show up, your people will show up. Period. And when I say your people, I'm being put some air quotes around that, because yeah, that part. There are people who have been following me since 2013, 2012. I may not be their flavor anymore. They may be like, whoa, she done went woo-woo on us, and she's talking about tarot and astrology now, and I'm here for the fountain pens and the bookbinding, and I can't believe she's talking about that other stuff. And I'm okay with that, because I am allowed to evolve. My creativity is allowed to change, shift, and evolve. I'm allowed to be different. I'm allowed to grow. I am allowed to grow. And my hope is that folks will grow along with me, or grow alongside me and let me see their growth too. In fact, I had who is it that used to say this? I can't remember if it was somebody in my family or one of my teachers used to say, if you're not growing, you're dying, you're dead. Right? A flower that's no longer growing, right, is dead. So it's like, I am always evolving, always getting better, I hope. Always exploring, always assessing, and always deciding what gets to stay and what has to go. And so sometimes that means you got to take a break from some things, you know? So yeah, I trust that your people will still be there, and that new people will discover you and go. I mean, I think I've shared this before. I still, to this day, and it's been more than, let's see, do the math for me. 2013 to 2023 would be 10 years. So this year makes 11 years since I did Book in a Day. I still today have, not today in this actual day, but I still have moments where I get emails from people who are like, I just found you and I've been watching your Book in a Day and thank you. And right, still today, after 10 years, after that content being up for 10 years, y'all. Right? So it's a journey. And I'm not a drop in the bucket kind of person. I'm here for the long haul. I'm a goat. I climb a mountain in however long it takes. Right? I'm a slow prod build, I'm also not one of those that's like, you got to build your stuff in a week, in a month, in a day. And like, you got to give things the time they deserve. Let me see. I missed some of the chat. Y'all are booming. Okay, here we go. Odelia says, I was brought up in a generation of people who did not believe in bragging. And yes, self-preservation. Yeah. You don't want people's eyes and tongue on you, which is not how my grandmother would have put it. That part, right? Like, and that's the other thing I see people doing all the time is like, they come out and they tell the whole world about this thing they're getting ready to do. And then they get upset when somebody else does that same thing. And I also grew up with a generation of matriarchs saying to me, you don't say what you're going to do until you've done it. Right. And I mean, there's some fear involved in that. Let's be real about it. Right. There's some fear that comes with that. But I also think that fear comes from a real place. It's not made up fear. It comes from a real place. Now, whether it is continually Whether it's still warranted to have that fear, that's another conversation. But that comes from a real place, y'all. So people who come from a generation where they said that, or come from a culture where that was like the thing to sort of warn your children about, that fear is coming from a real place. That's not made up. Let's not discount that. It's real. For them, it was real. Now, whether or not that continued to be our reality, that's a whole other conversation. But the truth is, that saying comes from a real place. That fear comes from a real place. I say we don't discount it. I say we listen and learn. I say we listen and we learn. Um, so Odelia, thank you for sharing that, because that's real. That's real. And yeah, I think there was also that generation of like, if you talk too much about yourself and you share too much, you're bragging, right? Now you're bragging. And that has been something that I've had to deal with as well, right? Um, I had people in my past be like, oh, you think you're better than us? Oh, you think you're better than me because you did this, this, and this, or you can do that, that, and that. And here's what's real. Hear me on this. And this gonna be, and I'm gonna read through the chat, and then I'm gonna get off my little soapbox. But I'm gonna say this: when people say you think you're better than me, what they're really saying is, I think you're better than me. That's really what they're saying. And that's their stuff, not yours. Because the reality is, I am better than you at some things. You are better than me at some things. And can we just be okay with each of us being good at the thing we're good at? I think we should. I think we can. I think that's where the power lies, is going, you know what? You're right. I am better than you at this thing because I've put in time, energy, investment in my whatever to get good at it. You haven't. Right? You haven't. So that's like somebody cooking a pound cake for the first time and it doesn't go well, and then they're mad at me because my pound cake goes beautifully. But what if I've made 35 failed pound cakes to get to this one really good one? I am better than you because I did 35 really bad ones to get to the good one. It doesn't mean you can't get better than me, though. Right? And I think that there's a lot wrapped up into that. So, yeah, Odelia, I'm right there with you. Okay, I'm scrolling. Tina says, blah, 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 blah. Okay. Oh, yeah, the search for balance. That part's important. Stephanie says, I have a great respect and admiration for you, being you and maintaining your desired boundaries. Thank you, Stephanie. And I'm not going to pretend like it's easy, y'all. I'm not going to sit here and go, just do it. Just decide you're going to have a boundary, get it and hold it, period. End of discussion. I'm not going to sit here and pretend like that is that easy. Just do it and it's done. This is years, and Damon can attest. And also, let me finish my statement. This is years of figuring out what my boundaries are and then figuring out how to hold those boundaries. Years. Okay. And I know I'm over my 15-minute mark that I said I was going to do, y'all. But I'm going to keep going for a minute here. So it's years of figuring out what my boundaries are, what boundaries I need, and years of practicing what it feels like to hold those boundaries and what it feels like to have to deal with people who previously you didn't have any boundaries with, who now you have boundaries with, the fallout of that. The fallout of now you got boundaries all of a sudden. Oh, really? Right? Because the people who you've not had boundaries with, when you get boundaries, they don't understand that. Like, how dare you? How dare you say no to me? How dare you not show up every single time I tell you to or ask you to? How dare you have boundaries? Right? What do you mean your peace is important? Your sanity is important? How dare you? Right? That happens. That comes up. So Stephanie, thank you for saying that. And also I want to acknowledge that it's not easy, y'all. I don't want to try to make it like sugarcoat it and try to make it seem like it, just get boundaries. Get boundaries and you'll be fine. Boundary work requires shadow work, if I'm being honest. Both they go hand in hand, in my opinion. Um, Adelia says, oh, she's talking to Tina. Tina says, yeah, my skin is not as tough as I thought. I will be ready to fight the trolls. You won't like me when I'm angry. Not worth the energy. Yeah. Yeah. I have to say, and I've been one of those people that has had my account cloned, and people sent that person money, and then they were mad with me because they were like, I sent you money and you didn't. And I was like, you didn't send me any money. And it turns out they sent it to somebody who cloned my account. Like, it's a whole thing, right? Like, there's a lot that we open ourselves up to as business owners. And this is not to frighten anybody. This is to say, and also, here I am, still standing, still showing up. It didn't kill me. It didn't wreck my life or my business in any way. It was inconvenient. It was uncomfortable. But it didn't kill me, right? Like, it didn't end my career, but it was also not a fun moment in my journey, right? It's one of those moments where you're like, dang it, I'm out here on this highway and I got 2 flat tires and my AAA card has expired and I don't have any support to get this thing back running, right? It felt like one of those moments, right? But here I am. So I get that for sure. Odie says, also for me, that word brand really irks me because a brand was something my grandfather and uncles put on cattle. Odelia, we're gonna have to. I'm gonna have to table that one, because that one I want to unpack that for a little bit. But what I will say, yeah, that word brand, yeah, for a Black woman in America, yeah, it has. I have feelings about it. Let's say that. Let's say that. And so, yeah, I think for me, I also feel like when people do this thing around branding, it's almost like you're trying to tell me I can't ever change because this is what I said my identity is. It's like your brand becomes your identity in a way. And I have always resisted that. Like, why are you trying to make me pigeonhole me and make me be one thing and be in one thing? And now, I do think there is a level of consistency that's important in your business. Like, you want people to be able to recognize something is yours, right? But I think there's other ways to do that without calling it branding or calling it a brand, So, Odelia, we may have to circle back to that for another conversation. And I also feel like there's a story in there for wisdom keepers around brands and branding, for sure. Yeah. Tina says, yeah, I will never forget showing my failed experiment oil pastel Dr. King portrait that clearly is a portrait of Fat Albert. Yeah, that part. Yeah, Odelia says, I will never say I'm a brand. Yeah, that part. Same. And I used to teach a whole module on branding yourself. And again, I get to grow and evolve. I would never teach that the same way now. I just wouldn't, right? I just wouldn't. So yeah, I think that's the piece, right? And that's the part of like knowing where you stand around certain things. That's what I meant by getting clear on what your values are and what you care about. Because it's easy to get caught up in the in sociology, we called it, it's called the zeitgeist, right? The energy, the spirit of the times. Well, everybody's branding and everybody's got an email list and everybody's doing this and everybody's doing that and everybody. And before you know it, you've bought into things that you actually don't, if you really stop and think about them, they don't sit well with your soul. Right? So there's that. Deidre says, I tend to unfollow oversharers now. Certain artists that I love are no longer in my feed due to their daily email posts, etc. Yeah. I mean, I do think there's a point of overkill, you know? There's a point where it just becomes, you got to think about it. I always think of myself, I wear two hats. I'm a content creator, but I'm also a consumer. And so I wear my consumer hat when I'm creating content as well. I'm like, okay, would I want this? And how would I want this delivered to me? And what does the, so I think about that. It's one of the reasons why I said, I'm going to go live every day for a month, because I think when people disappear from platforms and then they reappear, I'm always like, wait, where have you been? What have you been doing? Like, what brought you back? Like, what's happening? So I'm like, not that I got to know every little detail of your life, but I do question it. I go, well, you've been gone and now you're back, and what's happening? What, were you sick? Were you like, what's going on? Right? Again, I don't need to know all the nitty-gritty details, but I'm like, I know that would be a curiosity I would have. So let me just show up here for a month and talk to people and say, hey, here I am. I'm still here. Here's some of the things I'm still doing that you probably know me for. And here's some new things that I've been learning and doing and implementing into my life and my creative practice since we last were in each other's company. Right? That's really how I think of things. I'm like, as a consumer, what question would I be asking? What is it that I want to know? What more do I need? Right? And yeah, that part. I got an email from someone who was like, she responded to my email that I sent on Letter Day Z. And she was like, why weren't you sending us these every day to let us know when you were going live each day? And my first gut reaction to that question was, because I wouldn't want to get an email every day saying, letter day A, I'm going live. Letter day B, I'm going live. Letter day C, I'm going live. Letter day, oh my God, I would be so annoyed with that person. I would be annoyed. I would be like, listen, tell me one day, give me the link to the playlist. Don't keep emailing me every day telling me you're going live. That would annoy the heck out of me. And then I would go, they would give me the link on letter day A. I would go over there and I would sign up to get the notification so that I can know if I really wanted to know every day, right? Like I treat people on the other end of my emails the way I think that I want to be treated. And I know there are some people who are like, but I don't check this and I get that. And here's the biggest piece of advice that I can give you when it comes to running a business. You cannot be all things to all people. Do not try. You can't be all things to all people. You're never going to please everybody. So don't bother trying. Do not waste your time, energy, efforts, and money and resources on trying to be all things to all people. Second piece of advice, never build your business on the feedback of one person. That is a horrible idea. One person's angry with you because you didn't do it this way and you didn't do it. And so now you go and you change your whole thing to accommodate that one person. Never build your business on the feedback of one person. And you can't be all things to all people. So here's what I do, folks. I put on my consumer hat and I go, what would I like? What would I want? What would make this easy for me? What would make this useful if I were on the receiving end of this? That's how I do it. Tina says, I do feel bad with the IG message. These people follow you and you do not follow them back. I may not vibe with their art style or with pictures of their grandkids. Just saying. Let me be. Let me be, IG. Yeah, I don't believe in a follow for follow either. Just because you're following me doesn't mean I should have to follow you and vice versa, right? Just because I follow you, I don't expect that you're going to follow me back. It's okay if you don't. I'm following you because there's something you are like pouring into me that I find helpful. Period. I don't care if you follow me back or not. My ability to receive what you are giving is not contingent on whether or not you're following me. That's my personal feeling. Yeah, I have clients that I've had to really help them detox their mindset around follow for follow, and also around these apps and things you can download that tell you every single time somebody unfollows you, you get a notification. No, thank you. No, thank you. I don't want that, right? Or people who pay attention to every time every single person who's unsubscribing. People unsubscribe and resubscribe to my stuff all the time, especially my newsletter list. Like people, I'll send something and the person doesn't even read it. They just unsubscribe because they're like, Kyla again. Every 6 months, she's messaging me something. I'm over her. Right. And then I send out something, or they see me somewhere in somebody else's platform and I've got a freebie, and then they resubscribe. And then they're upset with me again because they forgot who I was and I didn't reach out to them for 3 months, and then they unsubscribe, right? Like people subscribe and unsubscribe all the time. Sometimes people unsubscribe because they've subscribed to you 5 times from 5 different emails and they're like, oh my God, I'm getting this girl stuff 5 times. And they just need to unsubscribe, right? There's 1,000 reasons why people unsubscribe. And so I've had to help some of my clients detox from this mental angst they put themselves through, thinking that it's personal. Sometimes I unsubscribe for people because I'm like, yeah, your content no longer is relevant to what I'm needing and doing in my life. So thank you for all the years where I did read your emails, but I'm done here now. And that has to be okay. You have to be okay with that. I like the direction this is going. Chain stitch, seeds, running stitch, and then I did a little whip stitch around the edge of that. So I think I'll repeat that on these. So chain, running, and then a little whip stitch there. All right, let me move quickly through these, and then we're gonna go. Marguerite says your "make it easy" quote has been helping me so much lately. Yeah, I love saying "let it be easy." And y'all, oh my God, I was on a call recently in somebody else's community, and she said "let it be easy," and I was like, "Girl, where did you get that from?" I've been saying that for the last 5 years, and so anyway, it was funny. I actually sent her an email. I didn't say, "Hey, where'd you get that from?" But in my mind, I was like, "Where'd you get that from?" But what I wrote to her was just, the confirmation of hearing it from someone else, was confirmation. And yeah, I mean, I started saying it in a community that I was sort of like the head of, but it was a collective. Anyway, it's hard to explain, but I was, people in there were like, there was a requirement we had to meet each day, and of things we had to post and share each day, every single day, and sometimes twice a day. And there were people who would be like, "This is too much. I can't do." And I was like, "You got to let it be easy, y'all. Let it be easy." And it just started from that. So yeah, it's a big mantra in my life now for all things. Um, ah, oh my goodness, Deidre says she has to spend a lot of time on Instagram blocking male widowers from foreign countries who have followed her. My goodness. Oh, Gail, thank you. Same here. Gail says these videos have been like visiting with a good friend. Loving it. Yeah, seeing you all in the chat. And I did say I'm gonna give y'all a little sneak peek. So on day 30, I am gonna go live here for a short amount of time, and then I'm gonna drop a link into the chat to a Zoom call for anybody who wants to come and actually be together in each other's energy. You don't have to come on camera. You can have your camera off and be, sort of in the background invisible, but I am going to do that on the very last day. I'm going to drop a little link in. So I'm giving y'all a heads up that about halfway through the live stream, I'm going to drop a link in. I'm going to say goodbye to the live stream and turn it off and come over to Zoom and hang out a little bit with folks who want to do that. So just thought I'd give you a heads up. So Gail, you are touching on the reason why I decided to do that is because it is like, I feel like for 28 days up to this point, I've been in the conversation and community with some of you, and I haven't gotten to see you or be in your energy in a different way. So that's my plan for the last day. So I hope some of y'all can make it and come hang out a little bit. Damon says, thank goodness for growth and you're embracing it. Yeah, that part. All right. Y'all have been talking up a storm here. Let's see if I can find things I might need to address. Odie says, I started with you on booking a day. I still go back to those videos. Thank you. Thank you for that. I can't tell you the number of times I have thought about taking those videos down, but it's almost like every time I have the thought the next day, or even sometimes within the same day, I get an email from somebody who's like, thank you so much for these videos. And I'm like, okay, leave them up. Leave them up. Yep. I'm just looking through the chat here. Healthy boundaries take a lot of work, but a valuable gift to yourself and others. Absolutely. Yep. Dee says her 8-year-old granddaughter was talking about her brand, and she was like, what? What does an 8-year-old know about brand? Oh my God. Tina says the word brand has dramatic energy on so many levels. Yeah. Roseanne says there have been times when I've said to people, please say that again without attacking, yelling. Yeah, that part. It can feel like that sometimes, coming out, that energy coming off the other side. And I don't know that that's what they intend. Maybe they do, but I don't think they do. And I think they don't realize. And sometimes it's about just putting yourself in the other person's shoes, right? Which is what I try to do a lot. Damon says a major clue into who a primary driver of the current zeitgeist was hinted at back in the early 80s with the movie Poltergeist, the TV, television, media, which is plural for medium, which is what channels spirits. Oh my gosh, Damon, you haven't shared this one with me, so my mind is going like, oh wow, interesting. Zeitgeist, Poltergeist. Holy smokes, you're gonna make me want to go back and watch Poltergeist. Not really, because I can't deal with horror. Carrie says, yeah, I didn't know you were doing this till I found you a few days ago, but I couldn't find the live tab to get advance notice. Technology is challenging at the best of times. Yes, Carrie, I'm right there with you. And that's one of the reasons why I'm doing it easy peasy style, because sometimes the technology stops me from doing the thing that feels helpful, that it feels like I want to do. I have so many things I would love to share. But some days it just feels too hard to sit down, record a video, edit. Too much. Too much. Thank you, Carrie. I'm loving it. It's so different from some of the others that but I've been trying to use up fabrics that I have in a bunch of different things. So I'm just going to keep going. I'm going to go until I run out of the ones that I had already pre-cut. And I might consider doing something with them at that point and then starting a completely new project. I have a lot of these little things. And I don't know what it's going to be. My mama, I showed her some of them and she was like, are you making a quilt? And I was like, from your lips to the universe's ears, I don't know anything about making a quilt other than what I've learned from her, But, my mama, I love her. She is one of the people who believes I can do anything. She's like, Kyla, you got that. Just do it. And I love that about her. So, yeah, I don't know what I'm going to do with them, but thank you, Carrie, for noticing and commenting. I'm really enjoying it, especially really honestly enjoying doing it here with you all because, again, I don't always remember when and where and all the details of a thing, but I remember the energy and the story of it. And some of these pieces that I've done here with you all have your energy infused in them as well. And that to me feels really really beautiful, to be able to go, yeah, I did that when I was live on Instagram in April that year, right? Being able to kind of look back at that and know also that some of you were here and your energies are infused into this as well. So that feels, to me, that is really what quilts are all about, especially when you're like a part of a quilting bee and all of you are working on a quilt together. And like my mama and her LWML ladies, that's the Lutheran Lutheran Women's Ministry, LWML League, Lutheran Women's Missionary League, maybe? LWML. I can't remember what the M is for. Lutheran Women's. Yeah. So anyway, they would make quilts, especially when there's like in Pensacola, when we're going to have like a cold snap or something, they would make these quilts and take them to a place where people who are homeless can get them to have blankets if they don't want to take shelter, for whatever reasons. And they would do all sorts of things. They made a bunch of blankets and quilts and things and sent them over to Haiti when Haiti had that big landslide thing happen. And they've done a lot of things that they did that for Hurricane Katrina and sent a bunch of like quilts and things. But I think about like they would sit around in a circle, all of them for hours working on these things together. And I'm like, their love and attention and energy is infused in those things, So yeah, some really good stuff. All right, friends, thank you all for being here today. This has been lovely to share with you. I know I didn't get to talk about all the things. I didn't get to talk about writing. I'll talk about that tomorrow maybe, but I hope that some of what I've talked about has brought you some joy and helped you start to think about where your joy and your creativity intersect and how to have more of both of them. I hope that's helpful. For those of you that have questions about business, please, you can always ask me. I'm pretty much an open book. I mean, obviously there are things I don't share because, well, boundaries. But also I'm happy to share when I can. I am absolutely happy to share. And if you have a question that feels really personal to you or private to you, or that you think might be approaching some of my boundaries, you can always email me. And if it is, I am loving and kind and compassionate in every opportunity I get. And I will send you a loving, kind, and compassionate email that says, I don't think that I can share that, right? I'll be really honest. But you won't know unless you ask me. So feel free to ask me. Okay. So the Zooming will be on, let's see, today's the 28th. So tomorrow, 29th. So Tuesday, the 30th. Tuesday, the 30th. Okay. Love y'all. Be good. Have a beautiful rest of your Sunday. Do something that brings you joy, makes your heart smile, and lets you ripple that beautiful energy out into the world. Stay safe and do something really good for yourself. Damon likes to say, let your life be legendary. So I'll say that today. Let your life be legendary. Is the Zoom on Tuesday? Yes. The Zoom is Tuesday. All right, loves. Bye. See you soon.